Welcome to Raveum Insights. Today, we're exploring a really powerful trend that's reshaping global investment, the massive flow of capital from India into U.S. real estate. We're going to break down exactly why it's happening, some of the hidden challenges for investors, and, most importantly, how this whole process is becoming simpler than ever before.
So just to give you an idea of the sheer scale we're talking about, look at this number, $31 billion. That's how much was sent out of India in the last fiscal year alone through just one single official channel. A huge slice of that capital is flowing into overseas assets. And you can bet U.S. real estate is right at the top of the list.
So here's our roadmap for today. We'll start with the big why. What's driving this global shift? Then we'll get into the nitty-gritty, navigating the legal and tax mazes that every investor has to face. After that, we get to the good part, the solution, which is all about smart structuring. And finally, we'll see how technology is really opening the doors and making all of this so much more accessible.
All right, so what's really behind this movement? It's not just about owning a piece of property across the world. For so many global investors, this is a strategic play for stability and for transparency, two things the U.S. market is famous for.
Let's dig into these core motivations a bit. Earning income in U.S. dollars, that's a huge deal. It acts like a financial shield against currency swings back home. It's also about getting a foothold in a market that is incredibly deep and well-regulated. And, the bottom line? The returns are compelling. We're often talking about 5 to 8% annually, which is really that sweet spot between a reliable yield and long-term stability.
The opportunity is pretty clear, right? But the path to get there isn't always a straight line. Before any money moves, investors have to get familiar with the specific legal framework on the Indian side of the equation. Let's break that down.
Okay, so the main gateway for all of this is India's Liberalized Remittance Scheme, or LRS. Now, you shouldn't think of this as a barrier. It's more like a regulated highway. It allows each person to send up to $250,000 US abroad every single year. And yes, buying property is an explicitly permitted use for those funds.
And staying compliant is actually a pretty straightforward three-step dance. You have to route the money through an authorized bank, you declare the purpose on a specific form, and then you just have to disclose the foreign asset in your Indian tax returns. It's all designed to be completely transparent.
All right, so the money has made it to the U.S., but that's when a brand new set of rules kicks in. And I can't stress this enough. Understanding the U.S. tax obligations for a non-resident investor is absolutely essential if you want to protect your returns. First up, let's talk rental income. The default U.S. withholding tax is a flat 30% on your gross rent. Now, while you can lower this by filing a proper tax return, this is the number that you start with, right out of the gate.
Okay, next up, what happens when you sell? Well, if you hold the property for more than a year, you can expect to pay a long-term capital gains tax of somewhere between 15 and 20% on any profit you make.
And here it is. This is the big one. This is the tax that catches so many people completely off guard, the U.S. estate tax. If you hold property directly in your own name, your estate could face a tax of up to 40% on any value over just $60,000. Think about that. This single detail can completely derail an entire family's financial future.
So that naturally leads us to the most important question of all. With all these legal hoops to jump through and a potential 40% estate tax bombshell waiting, how can an investor from India actually navigate all of this effectively to protect their capital and, optimize their returns?
Well, the answer isn't about trying to avoid the rules. It's about understanding them and using the right structure from day one. See, intelligent ownership and knowing how to leverage tax treaties, those are the keys to unlocking this market safely and efficiently.
And this comparison just says it all, doesn't it? If you go with direct ownership, you're looking at high estate tax exposure and unlimited personal liability. But when you structure the investment through a vehicle like an LLC or through fractional ownership, it is a complete game changer. This approach can mitigate or even eliminate that massive estate tax risk, it limits your liability, and it simplifies everything from the administrative burden to planning for your family's future.
The other critical piece of the solution is the Double Tax Avoidance Agreement, or DTAA. This is a crucial treaty between India and the U.S. that basically makes sure you don't get taxed twice on the same income. So, any tax you pay in the U.S. on, say, your rental income can be claimed as a credit against your tax bill back in India. It's a lifesaver.
So this all brings us to our final section,
How do all of these solutions come together to create a modern, streamlined pathway for investors? What was once a really complex aspiration for only a select few is now becoming a much more accessible reality for many.
And this is exactly where modern investment platforms come into play. They are literally designed to bridge this gap, to solve these exact challenges. They package institutional-grade properties into a fully compliant vehicle that handles everything from registering the U.S. entity to all the cross-border reporting. This takes the entire administrative burden right off the investor's shoulders.
So, what's the key takeaway from all this? It's simple. Despite the complexities we've talked about, the U.S. property market remains the global benchmark for trust and stability. And with the right structure and the right knowledge, it is more accessible today than it has ever been.
For anyone interested in seeing how these modern structures really work in practice, you can find detailed resources and explore compliant, cross-border opportunities at Raveum.com.
Thanks for tuning into this explainer. The world of global investing can seem complex, but understanding the rules of the road is always the first step. We'll leave you with our mission, Raveum, reimagining how the world invests in real estate. Be sure to follow us for more insights.